How are you doing? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the World Options Trading Program. And we're going to do it to our Sunday game sermon. And what we're going to really quickly talk about is virtual reality or virtual insanity. And what we're going to talk about primarily is where we think the world is going and some of the things that you need to look out for. And you can also try to take some of this information and try to figure out how you can position yourself to monetize this particular trend, but really it's going to be a secular change. So it's going to be a trend that's going to turn into a secular change. And what I mean by that is that this is going to be a long-term change in our particular society. And we've been going in this direction for years. However, because the change has been very gradual, and a lot of times because people are immersed in this change, they don't really realize that it's going on. And I want you to really understand is that this change is very much desired by the public. The public wants this. So there's going to be very little opposition to this change. So a lot of times you'll have changes in society and the public might not want to go along with it. However, the powers that be have a way of nudging or pushing people in that direction. A lot of times they use what's going on in the world to get people to go along with it. The people are going to elect for this particular change because it fits into where they want to go emotionally, because they've already exhibited habits based around this change. And what we're talking about is virtual reality. And what I mean by virtual reality is I mean a particular world that's not real. So I mean a false reality, an environment that is not really real. And what we see is that people prefer these virtual worlds because it allows them to build essentially an avatar or an image or a persona based on who they would prefer to be as opposed to the real world. So for many people, building themselves up in the real world is so difficult. I would prefer to be somebody else. Now, before we had all this social media, it would be difficult to be somebody else because you had to figure out how to do it in the real world. So if you were going to be, a person that was engaged in identity theft, there was a movie called Catch Me If You Can, in which a guy, he impersonated different people. There was a brother that I think he was in, I don't know what part of the country, where they said that he was trying to be a doctor. I don't know if that was true. That was alleged. That's difficult because you have to do it in the real world. What now is very easy is to go online, but especially in social media, and social media essentially overlaps pretty much all of what we do online now in some area because the platforms are so big. And you can create this persona or create this avatar based around a lot of times who you desire to be as opposed to who you really are. I've known people that if you look at their social media, you would really believe they got a lot going on. And I've known some of these people in real life and they have very little going on. They got a lot of challenges in their life. They have a lot of struggles in their life. But because their social media is a snapshot that they have been able to curate, if you just look at their social media profile, you think they got it all together. And that's the farthest thing from the truth because I've known some of these people in real life. However, they have a desire to create this avatar, create this persona based around this person where they have everything together. Life is fun, yada, yada, yada. There was a story years ago about this girl who, if you looked at her social media, she was always smiling. She always looked pretty. She always looked very presentable. She always like she was having fun. And she had a scenario where she walked off a parking garage and killed herself. And the thing that was so crazy was that what was going on in her internally was totally opposite of a social media profile. But we have this desire in society to make the social media be a lot of times who we really want to be. And so many people have fed into this because it's easier to do that than it is to do it in the real world. If you're trying to impersonate a doctor, or you're trying to impersonate a lawyer, or you're trying to do these impersonations to make yourself seem important in the real world, not only can it be very difficult, there can be a lot of pitfalls to that. You know, if you impersonate, there was a guy that was impersonating a police officer, who was pulling people over. We can get into a lot of trouble for doing that. Okay, so we got to understand is that a lot of people have realized it's easier for me to just do it on social media. So what we've seen on social media is that people create whole false personas. I'm not against you marketing. I'm not against you creating a personality brand. But what we found is that everybody knew the person back in high school or back in the neighborhood that tried to figure out, who do I want to be cool with? And how do I think they want me to act so I can be cool with them? And then let me act like that, whether I got to buy certain clothes, whether I got to listen to certain music, whether I got to use certain language or slang. Who do I want to be cool with? How do I think they want me to act? And then what do I got to do to try to act like them so I can be cool with them? Because even though that's really not who I am. And what we've seen is that that's pretty much a lot of what we see going on social media. So you'll see a guy who will build a platform, right, talking about black women, but he keeps having children with black women because this is just a persona that he's created. It has nothing to do with who he really is in the real world. However, when you have a following on social media, you got to understand something. They know it's not real, but you're doing what they're doing. So they're not going to find a fault in you for doing what they're doing or doing what they would have done. I want you to understand something. That rapper 6ix9ine, the reason why he was so big online is one, because he was entertaining. Two, his fans knew he was not who he said he was. But this is their culture. Their culture is, let me go on social media and create a persona with the hope that it can appeal to a lot of people, that I can get a lot of social media traction with this persona. It don't matter who I have to say I am. The goal is to get a lot of attention on social media with this persona. And then if I can be successful at it, well, the actual results justify the behavior. So 6ix9ine's fans knew he wasn't who he tried to present himself to be. Nobody believed this dude was a gang member. But this was a persona that he was playing into. Why? Because this was the culture of his fan base. His fan base is a bunch of people that jump on the internet and they present themselves as being somebody else. That's the trend now. That's the change. And that trend is going to turn into a secular change. It's going to turn into a permanent change. So when he got caught up and he turned, I don't know whether it was federal witness or state's evidence against the people he was running with, well, they didn't have a problem with that because he did what they would have done, because they knew from the gate this guy was never a gang member. They knew that. So there was no information that you were going to present to them that made it seem like, oh, he's fraudulent. They knew he was fraudulent. He did exactly what they would have done. They want to be big on social media. So their mentality, he got the game. He has the blueprint. He's figured out how to get a lot of attention on social media. Because if you studied him, nobody talked about his music. It was just what he was doing on social media. Nobody knew him for music. Even now, nobody talks about his music. It wasn't like, yeah, he had some good music back in the day. It was who he was on social and the persona that he created on social and the attention that he was able to garner on social. And he understood his fan base because of the actual generation that he comes out of. This is very much what they're involved in. But you even see this in people that are much, much, much older than him. He was in his early 20s. You see people in their 40s and their 50s. They never really was that guy. There was a dude I know in Atlanta from Zone 6, and he talked about, you got a lot of people on social media that growing up, they never felt like they really was accepted, and they never really felt like they were respected. They didn't get that in their neighborhood. They didn't get back that in school, and they're still trying to figure out a way for them to get that relevancy in their own mind to other people. So they're looking really for other people to put them on a pedestal, and they think that's what success is. So what they've done on social media is they sought that out, and whatever they got to say, whoever they got to be, right, to do that, that's what they're going to do. And so that's the virtual reality world that we're living in. The issue is that it's two-dimensional. Most social media is a two-dimensional world. Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, these are all two-dimensionals, right? So even though the world is three-dimensional, once you take a video of it, it now becomes two-dimensional the way it is displayed. Now, we do got 3D pictures, but that's not most people's social media content. So what we're going to see now is we're going to move from the two-dimensional world, right, into a three-dimensional world. And that world is going to be so much more powerful because it's going to be virtual. It's going to be immersive, and it's almost going to be like you're experiencing it as it's happening. And what that's going to do is it's really going to give people, right, the virtual reality experience that they really desire, because these people don't just want to be somebody on social media. They will prefer that in their life, they're able to create this avatar and live that out on a day-to-day basis. That has nothing to do with who they are. So similar to how you can go on some of these video games and you can create a character, and then you can pay the game to get like upgrades to the character. They're going to have that in virtual reality, where you're going to have the ability to create a character, right? You're going to have the ability to pay this particular platform to add accessories and upgrades to this particular character. And then you're going to be able to live that character out in that virtual world. And that's going to give you the life that you really want, because you don't know how to build that particular life in the real world. OK, and it's something that the public is going to demand. They're not going to have to force this on people. People want this. And we know that people want this based on their behavior on social media. Right. And the reason why you can't expose anybody by showing that, well, this person really isn't who they say they are, is because their audience, right, believes in the same thing that they believe in, where my goal is to go on social media, create this character, create this avatar, create this persona. And as long as it gets me the attention I desire, that's the success story. Whether or not it's really who I am, everybody knows that's not who you are. The goal is to go on social media and to create these personas and create these avatars. That's the goal. Now, many people say, well, you know what? You're calling yourself Diamond Dave. Aren't you doing the same thing that they're doing? I would disagree. The reason I call myself Diamond Dave is for SEO reasons. My real name is so common, you can't SEO it. It's almost impossible to do it. So anybody that knew me back when I was on Facebook under my legal name, right? What we used to call back in the day, your government name. I was on Facebook under my government name. The challenge is that it's very difficult to SEO you, but I'm on LinkedIn under my government name. I'm not on LinkedIn under a persona name. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not on LinkedIn under some type of entertainment name. I don't have a alternative name that I use for myself on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn under my government name. You understand me? So the reason why I started calling myself Diamond Dave is because it allowed me to SEO it. I want certain things to be SEO available. I have opportunities to do some type of SEO. But the way in which I talk to you, the way in which I conversate with you, this is not a persona. Anybody that's met me in the real world, or there are people that from social media that have met me in real life, you know what they tell you? There is no difference. I don't go into a character to talk to people on the social media. I don't know how to do that. I know how to talk to you just like I would talk to a regular person. So people that have done business with me, people that have spoken to me off social media on my particular platform for traders will tell you I talk to you the exact same way. In fact, I watch what I say because I understand a lot of y'all have not dealt with certain type of people. So y'all don't understand in certain situations, right, how things go. So a lot of times when I'm dealing with people, I'm not really giving you 100% of me. I'm kind of handling you with kid gloves because I know a lot of y'all have been exposed to certain things. You just know this social media stuff. And so you think everybody is on the social media thing. And so when you deal with people that's not on that, a lot of y'all don't know how to deal with that. So I really do watch how I deal with a lot of people that I meet on social media. But anybody that's dealt with me in real life will tell you that I'm the same person at 2 o'clock in the morning that I am at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't put on this persona to be on social media. So even though I have a persona name, or I have what I call like an entertainment name, that's for SEO reasons. I am not invested in trying to figure out how to make myself on social media because I wasn't raised that that's what you do. Right. But I was successful, and I'm not trying to, pat myself on the back. I was successful at getting recognition in the real world before I ever got on social media. And that's something that I encourage all parents to do for your children. And I'm not trying to tell you how to raise your household. But I think for children, it is very, very important that they get the recognition and they get affirmed in the real world first before they jump on social media. Because the reason why we have this such strong demand for this virtual reality is because most people in this world have never figured out in the real world how to get any kind of positive recognition, how to get any kind of positive affirmation in the real world, or they didn't get enough of it. And as a result, they run on social media to try to figure out how to get it. And a lot of times they end up doing the wrong thing just to get any kind of recognition. Any attention to them is good enough. So whatever I got to do to get some attention, I'm going to do it. Right. And that becomes a lot of times a problem for a lot of people. However, this is where the game is going. So let me give an example of what I'm talking about. This is probably one of the biggest selling video games of all time. I know everybody talks about the Call of Duty. They talk about these other games. The Sims is probably one of the biggest video selling titles of all time. And what it allows you to do is create an avatar, and then you go into these particular worlds and you act it out. I never really played the game. I just seen examples of it because it's really not my type of game. I was always more into sports games. However, what we're going to see in the future is The Sims, but in a virtual reality type scenario. So what we saw with the woman on the first slide here, where you can actually go into this virtual world and it's a point of view perspective, as if you're actually living it. The same way when you look out with your eyes, you see the whole world laid out in front of you in 3 dimensions. You're going to see The Sims in that same type of reality. And this is going to be very, very powerful because what it's going to do is allow a person to become immersed. And just like The Sims, you got different universes, you got different areas in which you can go into and interact with other people. You're going to see that. Now, they're already doing that with pornography. And one of the things that we understand about pornography is they always kind of lead the way as far as where internet experience is going. So it's not something that's really mainstream yet, but it is coming. So what's going to happen is that once pornography gets all the kinks out of this, then they're going to try to move it to the mainstream. And eventually you're going to be able to create this whole world. And then people are going to be able to go into it with you, and y'all going to be able to interact with each other. And that's where we're going. And I want to tell you is that because of the way the world is, because of conditions in the world, because a lot of people can't figure out how to be successful in the real world, people are going to choose this as opposed to the real world. And so what I want you to show you is that years ago, they put out The Matrix. A lot of y'all remember that. And after the movie came out, a lot of people were saying, well, you know, you're in the Matrix. You're in the Matrix. You're not in the Matrix. The Matrix is coming. People are going to choose. They're going to elect to be in this virtual world where they get plugged into something and their whole life is just virtual. There is no real world that they live in anymore. Right. And they're going to elect to do that because that world is going to be more appealing to them and more satisfying to them than being in the real world and just struggling all the time, just dealing with a lot of disappointment, a lot of despair, being afraid, being angry. They're going to choose just to opt out. So it's similar to a person that just chooses to just do drugs all day because they've essentially just checked out on life. You're going to get people who are going to do the same thing virtually because you see this really strong desire out of the population to go on social media and to just become this brand new person. And if that don't work, let me become another person. And I'm not saying, like I said, I'm not talking about people that got personality brands. I'm not talking about people that are doing marketing. What I'm saying is that you have people that are not involved in any of that. And they've just created a whole new identity for themselves on social media. And it has nothing to do with who the person was. I know a woman on social who presented herself as this really, really, really big time real estate agent. And I know a woman that she was paying rent to for her office. And they were having an issue with the rent because the lady wasn't paying it. But on social media, she was this big time real estate agent. And so I don't know why she was so invested in giving us this persona instead of going out and actually closing some real estate deals. But that's the era we live in. And this wasn't a 21-year-old. This was an older woman. But it was so easy to go on social media and present to people. I'm not saying that you shouldn't give your best face. I'm not saying that if you're marketing, you shouldn't give your success stories. But there very much is a desire now on social media to create this person that is totally unlike who you are in real life. Because who you are in real life isn't really sufficient enough. And you don't believe that people are really going to like that. So because I don't believe that people are really going to like that, and I don't believe that's sufficient enough, let me create something totally different than who I am. And nobody's ever going to challenge it because my whole following is doing the same thing I'm doing. They want to be as successful at it as me. So they're looking to me to try to figure out how to get better in this virtual world. Okay. Now here's going to be some homework because I want you to kind of understand where the game is going. So everybody's pretty much seen The Matrix. That's a really, really popular movie. Everybody's seen it, but I talked about before. I don't believe The Matrix is here. I believe The Matrix is coming. I believe we're going to have a world in which people are going to opt out. And I really believe that they're going to start this with prison. They're going to start this with prisoners first. They're going to give prisoners the ability to opt out. Right? Here's a way in which we can utilize you and you don't have to experience prison anymore because we're going to put you into this virtual world. And then once they kind of get the kinks out of this particular process of prisoners, then I believe they're going to move it into the mainstream. Okay. Well, this is the homework. Movie came out 99. called Strange Days, right? Angela Bassett. A lot of people don't even know she was in this movie. Big budget production. Movie didn't really do that well, but it's a really good movie. It is a movie about virtual reality, right? It's a big movie about virtual reality and some of the applications of virtual reality. Now, they was talking about this in 1999. People think this stuff is new. The screenplay for this movie was written in 1986. This particular idea of this virtual world that people can go into is not anything new. It's just we didn't have the actual technological applications to catch up with the ideas and with the visions of people that wanted to kind of apply this. So this movie came out in 1999, which means it's over 20 years ago. But this is a really good movie about virtual reality. So if you really want to kind of understand where the world is going and how this thing is going to impact society, this is a really good movie. Now, this is like a crime movie, a crime thriller. But if you can extract all that and kind of understand some of the principles around this movie, I think it can give you a lot of insight on where the game is going. Another thing that you can watch for homework is a movie that came out, I think in 2000, maybe 2001. It was put out by Sci-Fi, so they probably own the property. So I don't know if you can get this on Netflix, called Caprica. And there's a lot of virtual reality implications where people who were kind of like lower income would would choose to opt out in the virtual world. They essentially got addicted to it because their actual life was so bad. They just wanted to live in the virtual world, right? And it kind of shows you how artificial intelligence came out of the virtual world, came into the real world, and then it started to start planting the seeds to taking over the world. So this is a really good movie. It's a mini series. It's not just a movie. I'm sorry. It's a mini series put out by Sci-Fi, early 2000s. I liked it because I like science fiction. However, it'll give you a lot of understanding of how enticing and how appealing a virtual reality experience is to a person that is not happy with their real life, right? And I really want you to understand that. So getting back to the main point, let me pull these slides back real quick. What we're going into is a virtual reality world, right? And it's based on the insanity that we see in the virtual space. And you want to really ask yourself, am I going to be content with being somebody in the virtual world, or do I want to actually build something for myself in the real world? Because what we have is that a lot of people have figured out it's easier to be somebody on social, right? I've been struggling my whole life to be relevant in the real world and I can't figure it out. Or I'm a young person and I realize it's easy to be big on Twitter or be big on YouTube or to be big on Facebook or to be big on TikTok, right? Or to be big on any of these other newer social media platforms that you see like middle school kids on. It's easier to do that. And that's where I'm getting my relevancy from. And that's where I'm getting my attention and my affirmation from than actually going out here in the real world and building something. And because everybody's doing it, I don't feel like I'm out of place. And the question is, if this becomes this secular change in society, if this becomes what people do, where are we going to be in 20 years? What is the world going to look like? Because if we got so many people that are involved, we even got parents now trying to get big on TikTok. If we got so many people trying to do this, what does the world look like? And I believe that we're going to have a Matrix style world where so many people are just going to decide to just check out and just be somebody on virtual. And that's going to be what they're going to do. Similar to a drug addict that says, you know what, I'm just going to lay up and just do drugs all day. Or the wino that you may know in your area. Well, I'm just going to sit back and just do, just drink all day. Not a bad person, but they decided to just check out of life and just drink all day. And that's what they decided to do with their life. And you're going to see the same thing because so many people are already addicted to social. They can't live without it. They wake up, first thing they do is they check their phone, see what's popping on social. You understand me? Now that they can be fully immersed, they'll probably choose to never come out of that world because I'm somebody in this immersive world, right? I've spent my little bit of money in the real world to build up my profile in this virtual world. I'm somebody here. So now because I'm somebody here, I don't ever want to come out. And you see this with social. I know people that are on social, right? That'll tell you, well, I don't need the money. I don't have to do this. I believe you. I believe you're here because you need the attention, right? I 100% believe you don't need the money. I believe you're here because you need the attention. And I want you to understand that. And they're not the only person that needs that affirmation out of social, that needs that affirmation in the virtual world. So you just got to make a decision what direction that you're going to go in. Are you going to do it from the virtual side? Or are you going to do it from the real side? Either way, there's going to be platforms and there's going to be people that are willing to monetize what you're trying to do and to put you in a position to where you can be happy about your decision. So at the end of the day, you got to just make a decision about what direction that you want to go into. So I hope that this was valuable to you. Hope I didn't ramble too long. This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world. I'll talk to you later.